I'm really high on the spell, not because the damage is great, but because it's the damage and then a little bit of a neat novel effect. I think this is exactly the same thing. It's just enough damage and also a neat little utility thing you'll use from time to time. So as a utility spell, you wouldn't use that often. But also as a damage spell, now all of a sudden this is a regular feature that you're going to see at a lot of tables, and the game is better for it, I think.
Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Catapult.
I think the Looney Tunes might just be always on play in your head. Just like that's you see the world in those sound effects, the awooga awooga, those kind of things. That seems like a Bob brain to me. Is that accurate?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
So you never notice it while it's happening.
Got it. This is a spell that I love dearly. I'm so glad they made this. It's not like it's about as good as Chromatic Orb, and I talk a lot of crap about Chromatic Orb. But this throws stuff, not random magic, so I love it that much more. This is a first level transmutation spell. It's an action to cast. Its range is 60 feet. It requires just somatic components. Duration is instantaneous. Choose one object weighing 1 to 5 pounds within range that isn't being worn or carried. The object flies in a straight line up to 90 feet in a direction you choose before falling to the ground, stopping early if it impacts solid surface. If the object will strike a creature, it makes a dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, the object strikes the target and stops moving. When the object strikes something, the object and what it strikes each take 3d8 bludgeon damage. So if you throw a porcelain vase, you best believe that vase explodes. At higher levels, this is neat. So at higher levels, we use a second level higher slot. The maximum weight the objects you can target increases by 5 pounds, and the damage goes up by a d8 for each spell level above first. They didn't need to do the little weight thing. It's a cute inclusion. I like it a lot.
Well, the weight thing is the only thing I care about upcasting. I mean, I'm not upcasting this for damage. You know what? Yeah. I'm not using this spell at all for damage. This is strictly utility for me. Like if I want a first level damaging spell, it's not this. You know, I'll use Magic Missile or something, but
I think this is pretty close to Chromatic Orb. I think a fair amount of people will reach for that, right? If you're levels 1, 2, and you're in the classes that get this, I don't see why not. I don't hate it.
I mean, it's fine, but you know, there are other comparable options.
True.
I like this for the utility.
Now, Bob, here's a good question for you. What do you think regularly is going to constitute something you throw that's less than 5 pounds?
I don't know. A brick?
A brick? Brick could be an option. I can see less than 5 pound bricks.
A weapon?
A shovel?
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking, I cast Fear. I don't have time to go pick up his weapon, but I can yeet it the hell away.
How does it always return to Fear?
Because Fear is great. And you asked me this question, you know, what are some good objects to...
True, I did.
Does this have a worn or carried thing?
It does. You cannot have anything being worn or carried. You can't yoink something out of someone's hand, unfortunately.
Here's a question for you.
Okay.
Why doesn't it just say up to 5 pounds? Why can't I, you know, yeet something that weighs less than a pound?
I think the idea is it wouldn't be harmful, so they don't include that, right? The idea is like if I want to feather at somebody, it doesn't damage them.
But if I want to like just yoink the key ring off the wall, nope.
It better just make your DMs just start putting brass key rings everywhere, right? Just everything's gonna be a little bit weighted down. Alternatively, if your DM's sick of you using this, everything's suddenly made of very light plastic. That's crazy. Weird ways to mess around with this thing.
So like, all right, so upcasting it. I don't care about the increase in damage, but I wish they would have gone higher with the weight limit. Like,
I agree.
If I'm casting, I want to cast this as a 9th level spell, but I want to throw a bus. I don't want to, I mean, 45 pounds, I'm throwing a bag of dog food. That is not a 9th level spell power.
Yeah, I wish it like multiplied the weight capacity by 2 every time, right? That I think would be pretty neat. Or even like made it exponential. That'd be sweet. I'd love to be able to move like a ton with a 9th level catapult. That seems much cooler than a rowboat at best, right? Like I don't get to actually catapult that cool of things using higher level slots. I will say once you do a second level spell slot, you're hitting like 99% of the items in the player's handbook equipment section. So if you can think of it, you can probably throw it. The exceptions, of course, being the mounts and the vehicles.
Yeah.
Like you said, dog food, apparently a day of feed is 10 pounds. So you could throw a bag of feed at somebody. That's a thing you could do.
I was talking more of my dog and the dog food we buy. That's probably around 45 pounds.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. The actual like new things you get weight wise probably are all going to be environmental dependent exclusively, because I think once you pass 10 pounds, you've left the realm of the player's handbook equipment section.
Yeah.
So like, sorry, less than 200 and more than 10, you've left the realm of the player's handbook equipment section. Yeah. So I think most of the time the text here is going to be like, yeah, you throw basically any weapon or object that you can see loosely lying about into somebody's face. Sweet.
Or to somewhere useful.
That option, I think, is going to happen a lot less than people expect it to.
Away from somewhere useful.
Sure, like get the MacGuffin out of there, right? Just be like, oh, yoink the staff away from it. It doesn't specify non-magical, so it does work on orbs and magic objects, artifacts, all that kind of stuff. This can be a way that the DM can set up a convoluted Indiana Jones swap puzzle, and you just go, everyone stand back, and then you just hurl it out the door, and everything explodes, and it's fine. I think 99% of the time, maybe not 99, I think a large majority of the time still, though, this is going to be just a fine first level damage spell for sorcerers, artificers, and wizards. And it'll have the fun flavor of I throw the chair at him instead of I shoot him with a chromatic orb. And that's fine. I'm into that.
That's fun.
It definitely is better than chromatic orb because of the utility. You definitely hit on the utility does make this. The fact that there are use cases here, this is kind of like amplify gravity or magnify gravity. I'm really high on the spell, not because the damage is great, but because it's the damage and then a little bit of a neat novel effect. I think this is exactly the same thing. It's just enough damage and also a neat little utility thing you'll use from time to time. So as a utility spell, you wouldn't use that often. But also as a damage spell, now all of a sudden this is a regular feature that you're going to see at a lot of tables, and the game is better for it, I think. I hope this one makes it into a player's handbook.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, like, if I'm really limited in my spell selection, maybe I'm taking this as my damage spell, and I won't choose a different damage spell.
But I think sorcerer is exactly that kind of class, right?
But if not, if I've got other options, I'm choosing a damage spell to do damage, and this for the fun utility.
Sure. I think you will find that you don't use this that often then, but that's okay. I just don't think the utility is coming up in a meaningful fashion that option, just because action costs are clunky, figuring out when is it worth it to disarm things, because you can just always pick up items, right? That's just like a free thing you do as part of another action. Intervening with Catapult seems like often ghoulish overkill to me, but you can conceivably take an object 60 feet away and throw it 90 feet further. 150 feet away is a long distance. Sure.
I'm sure there are things that we haven't touched on.
Of course. They'll all be situational, circumstantial, right? Someone reaches, like, if you're in a tavern, as an easy example, people say, leave your weapons at the door. You can say, great, my weapon's back to me. You can say, great, that axe is buried in his chest, that you yoink it out as the barbarian and you start killing people with it, right?
Oh, all right, here's one. Flaming logs on a fire.
Yeah, sure. And your DM can also like throw some fun flavor damage on that. Maybe it does 3d8 on contact and lights them on fire for a d6 a round or something.
Well, I was thinking more about throwing it like at some curtains or something.
Oh, you start a house fire, yeah.
Right, yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I think there are a lot of spells that can light things on fire. But yeah, that's another way to light things on fire.
Yeah.
It's a way that a character that may not have access to flames can get access to flames. Like, I'm going to take that log outside and throw it through this man's window. Yes. That's a thing you could do.
Or I could just throw this torch that I've been carrying around.
Yeah, through that man's window.
Yes.
I'm going to give Catapult a solid 3 out of 5. I like the spell a lot. I think it hits a lot of sweet spots for me. While I don't like spells that can miss, especially in the low tiers, it does enough little extra stuff that I will regularly put on character sheets. I've seen it cast a lot. It's almost always for damage, but it's usually damage with a fun little hiccup, a fun little like joke attached to it, right? So hitting someone over the head with a tankard's an easy one, and that makes it go up a notch for me.
All right, 3 out of 5 sounds right. Nothing to argue with that. It's not the strongest spell in the world, but it's above its weaker counterparts because of damage potential and fun utility. So that sounds good. All right. That was Catapult. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. Love to know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Other than that, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.